Acura has gone and revealed their first ever all-electric SUV, all-electric car in general, and that is the 2024 Acura ZDX. And can we just appreciate a couple of things here with this new ZDX? First of all, it doesn't look like an EV. It actually has some proper proportions to it. And it's based on the concept from 2022, which when you look at the sketches there, they were thinking of adding this typical EV interior, but they didn't. They stuck to a pretty normal, conventional looking interior. So what we're gonna do here, have a look at this design, obviously, from a front, side, rear, interior. But first, before we do that, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver. As always, linked down in the description if you want to go and check it out. So Acura's first EV is a mid-size SUV that will start around 60K and have up to 325 miles of range, which sounds pretty good to me. Along with rear or all-wheel drive powertrains, the ZDX will offer up to 325 miles and a performance-oriented 500 horsepower Type S model. And I just reviewed the Integra Type S, which drives like a small little go-kart. Go and check out that review because I had a lot of fun with it. I'm gonna link that review down in the description as well. With the first delivery set to arrive early next year, the 2024 ZDX will start at around 60K. The Type S option will open at around 70K. So what do we have when it comes to the powertrain here? It's built on the GM's Ultium scalable battery platform, which it shares with the Cadillac Lyriq. And like the Caddy, the ZDX has an identical 128 to 121.8 inch wheelbase. You can see here in the side view that if you just look at the wheelbase, you can see the Lyriq in these proportions. But I do think that this actually looks better than the Caddy, even though the Caddy looks pretty good as well. The Acura is slightly taller, but also slightly slimmer. The ZDX styling stands on its own with a face featuring the latest rendition of Acura's Jewel Eye LED headlights and a pentagonal fog grille with a three-dimensional embossed surface and an illuminated outline, a floating roof design, which you can see here with this black roof. We're going to talk more about that in a second. Sits above mostly smooth bodywork, and then we have this gray or silver trim at the bottom. Interesting spec on this one. The A-Spec wears 20-inch wheels, and the Type S rolls on 22s. 22s look very, very good indeed on this package. Regardless of their powertrain, both models are rated to tow up to 3,500 pounds. Towing, with an EV, it gets a little tricky there. So I wonder what type of range you get if you tow the full 3,500 pounds. I want to see more experience like that. How much does the range drop when you start towing with electric vehicle? Every ZDX has a 102 kilowatt hour battery pack that allows for peak charging rate of 190 kilowatts using a DC fast charger, and Acura claims that in about 10 minutes, the standard numbers here, this connection can add an estimated 81 miles of range to a single motor A-Spec. The Type S is expected to have a 288 mile range, while the A-Spec comes in at 325 miles per charge. The trim on the dash and doors flows into each other, and many of the soft looking surfaces have contrast stitching. The center console includes a flat storage tray along with cup holders and a wireless charging slot. Here you can see the interior. It looks like an internal combustion interior, and thank you, Acura, for making this decision, not going with a super minimalistic interior, super boring, and there's just some pixels here behind the steering wheel. This looks so much better. And in addition to that, there are knobs and buttons for the climate system. You have an 11-inch digital gauge cluster right here and a 11.3-inch touchscreen, which sits up here. Pretty lazy integration of the touchscreen. It could have been integrated a little better, but it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard. Customer deliveries aren't expected until early 2024. Acura says dealers will still have a part of every sale here, but that'll be done online. So you can do it either at the dealership or you can do it from your laptop or a computer at home. So it sounds pretty good. I'm not sure what if the dealers are being phased out now, because they are the middleman. So why don't you just buy straight from the company? I guess there are a lot of regulations and stuff that needs to be solved before every single dealer can have that solution. So now let's jump in and have a look at this design, because I think this blue looks fantastic with the silver. It reminds me of I think it's some sort of Volvo concept car. I think it was an S60 concept car that has these type of graphics. I think it was a Volvo S60 PCC that has the same type of graphics here, and it's fun to see Acura taking the bag because it looks pretty good. You have this silver at the very bottom right here, then you have the very bright blue looking exactly like the S60 concept, although this is of course an SUV. I do think the Volvo looked a lot better in its proportions. The S60 to me is one of these timeless designs. Still looks good today, but we're not talking about Volvo in this video. We're focusing on the Acura. So let's have a look at this front end. We have this clear line, which, as you know, I do like when we have a clear line like this. And then underneath this line is where the graphics of the front end starts. Nicely done. This chamfer here, though, very interesting because it has an up angle, slight up angle going upwards here. So it's not horizontal. And this is something that I kind of want to change to maybe even have it be a downward angle like this. Having it stick up like that, it looks a little strange. It looks very, it doesn't, it looks very confident to me. Either have it be horizontal or have it a downslope, but not an upslope like we have in this case. But it's just a small detail that nobody is going to notice anyway, so nobody's going to care about that regardless. Then we have these Acura headlights that is typical for today's generations of Acuras with this heartbeat wave right here with the LEDs. Looking great, maybe look a little static to me because it is very sharp and has almost the same thickness going all around it, but it is unmistakably, of course, an Acura when you look at it. The grille itself is illuminated, so this outline here that you have, the border between the grille and the body is in fact illuminated. I do like that they made a sort of a grille looking feature graphic detail in the front end and not just have it be a faceless EV with no personality. This still has a lot of Acura DNA inside of it, and you can see the main grille for the battery pack sits all the way down here. Not sure what this would look like if we made this black. It would probably look too much like an internal combustion engine, not set it apart enough from the internal combustion versions. Looking at the side view, as I talked about, this definitely has, if you just blur your vision like this, and if you make this, let's make it desaturated, you can see that this kind of looks, it has the same proportions as the Lyriq, which of course it is based on the same platform. So the wheelbase here, you can kind of see that these are some EV proportions because the wheelbase is so long and the overhangs in the rear and in the front are so small that something is weird with these proportions. If you were to think that this is an internal combustion engine, you can still kind of see that it is some EV stuff going on with these proportions, but it's still a very cool looking car. As I said, I do like the graphics at the bottom being silver. It's a very unique way of graphic design that we have here, and I do like the sculpting that we have in this side skirt at the bottom, and we have a very sharp strong shoulder going into the very corner right here of the taillight, not really dipping down into the corner of the headlight. It goes almost straight into the hood here before it dips down in the front end graphics. And you can see here as well, we do have this floating greenhouse being the black part, and we also have the C-pillar being cut right here. The designers took a break here. They said we're done for the day. We're not going to extend it down all the way to the very point of where it meets the blue. This is the Type S with the 22-inch wheels, and here comes Greta to have a look at this as well. I do like these wheels. I think they look pretty good. The overall vibe of this is that it doesn't feel too EV-ish. It looks like a normal car, and that's what I want to see more of. Even the wheels are not covered up to have this, plate design where everything is covered, where you can't see the discs and the brakes behind it. And I want to see that. I do like that we have blue and then yellow calipers. Reminds me of my home country, Sweden. Makes me a little bit emotional. In the rear end, we do have the same angles here. Have a look at this angle of this chamfer. Same type of up angle in this piece, which I want to have be straight or even not. I don't want to have it be a down angle in this case. I kind of just want to have it be straight and not have this up angle like we have here. Again, a detail nobody's going to care about, so let's move on. In the diffuser section, we do have a very large diffuser in this case. Sticks out not too far up, and it doesn't look like we have a proper bumper in this case either. This looks like it'd be a flat piece, and of course, since it is an EV, you don't have any exhaust pipes, obviously. That would be ridiculous to put on this. But I do like how the shoulder line wraps around the entire rear end, and then of course comes back on the other side. We do have some sort of spoiler, roof spoiler up here. It's not big enough to house the wiper, so we do have a visible wiper here, which I think they could have maybe implemented a little better and have it be hidden up here, so when it's not in use you can't really see it. It will sit up here underneath the wing, but it's again a detail that I think not a lot of people are going to be bothered by. I do like the taillights. They have almost the exact same design as we have in the front end headlights, creating a very, again, strong identity for Acura when it comes to the graphics of this car. Last but definitely not least, we do have the interior, and have a look at this. Why do we have to make EVs so freaking boring when it comes to the interiors? And just remove everything that has any sort of personality in the interior. Just make a small little tiny screen right here behind the, if you're lucky, you're gonna get a tiny screen here on EVs, and then you have this big dash infotainment screen sitting up here, usually on EVs. But in this case, Acura just decided, why would we do that? Why not take normal style and put some effort into this design? Even create, look at this, a housing for the gauge cluster, which looks absolutely fantastic. I don't mind that this is all digital. That's totally fine, because we do have, as I said, the housing for it up here. The steering wheel looks fine. I'm not sure what these empty buttons are for. It looks a little cheap, maybe, like you don't have all the options that you can get for the car. Not sure how you could solve that, because it would, if you don't have any buttons here, it would just be an asymmetrical wheel, and that wouldn't work either. So I guess we'll just have to live with these empty buttons. And then you have the infotainment screen right here with the volume knob physical, the knobs for the climate control here. Look at this beautiful array of buttons down here for the climate control settings. Perfectly done by Acura. Even the vents look very easy to use. I'm not sure about this though. This integration over here, they could have maybe made something cooler, not with the styling, but with the textures and with the materials. I think this looks maybe a little cheap for a $70,000 car. Just have some sort of pattern here. Not sure what that would be. Some sort of lines, maybe some texture. Something more interesting than just having a similar to the top dash and have the similar style on the lower section. Moving further down, you can see we do have two USB-Cs here. This right here looks like a 12-volt outlet, and you have the wireless charging pad right here. Two cup holders and an armrest that is angled in this way, which you can probably fold up. Underneath here, you're going to have some more storage and additional vents on each side. I do like the contrast stitching here, that we have the red stitching. Red kind of feels a little weird to have with the blue and the silver exterior. Not sure why they decided to put red stitching on the inside. I would probably want to have some blue stitching. I think that would suit this overall design better. But overall, you know, it's a cool design by Acura. But again, EVs these days, I'm still waiting for companies to come up with something. It's a challenge to come up with something that makes EVs a little bit more fun to drive, because they all feel exactly the same. So I hope maybe Acura will do something about that with this new ZDX.